Hi everybody and welcome back to LL Sports TV. Now today I'm very excited to announce a brand new show we're going to be doing on LL Sports TV called Keeping It in the Family with none other than myself and my boy Robbie here. Brother, sibling.
Boy or brother.
Brother, sibling. Anyway, you want to go with it, man. But yeah, very excited to announce brand new show each Monday. Myself and my brother talking about the major football talking points. And without any further ado, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about Arsenal. Obviously, we both support Arsenal, and Arsenal being featured very heavily in the news this week. Pretty disastrous performance at the weekend. Arsenal now slipping down to, fifth in the table. I'm going to go straight to you. What's going wrong? What the hell is going on?
I was at the game and it was a pretty poor performance. I have to say that first and foremost. We didn't deserve to get anything out of that game. We could have nicked a draw near the end. I think Declan Rice missed quite an easy chance at the end of the game, put on the plate for him by Saka. But to be honest, if we would have even scored that, I'm not even too sure if we'd have deserved it. We didn't do enough in the game, and it was a worrying performance because there's been other games we've had where we've lost, where at Bournemouth we were down to 10 men. All right, we didn't start well, but with 10 men, it's always going to be difficult. Never easy with 10 men in the Premier League. We dropped points against Liverpool, all right. We had a lot of injuries, stuff like that. This game, you couldn't look at that, right? All right, we didn't have Ben White playing. There's no Odegaard, but we've been missing him for a long time. But there was enough in that team to go up there and put in a better performance than what we did. And don't get me wrong, Newcastle's a difficult place to go to. We haven't won there. I think once in the last, up until the weekend, was like once in the last 3 trips up there. So it's never easy to go there. They got a draw against City, about a month or so ago. So it wasn't going to be easy, but it's the performance. The performance was poor, Like, from an attacking sense, it was dreadful. Let's be honest, And it was poor performances right throughout the team, It was Martinelli was terrible. Trossard was terrible. Havertz was non-existent. I don't even know where he was playing. He didn't seem to be playing like a striker. And again, is that down to the manager's, tactical, Marino was missing. Yeah, Marino was missing. Declan Rice had a poor game. It was just really poor. And we just got, when Newcastle scored, the greatest game, when Newcastle scored, it was against a run of play. We was actually playing pretty well at that time for the first 15 minutes. But once they scored, there was nothing from us. And that's why I was really disappointed in the performance.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think your synopsis is pretty much very accurate, and it kind of goes in line with what a lot of people have been saying. But of course, that's no wins in 3 Premier League games now.
Yeah.
Dropped to 5th in the table. And as you said, it seemed like this was a performance coming, because the performances over the last couple of weeks, I would say since the Leicester game, we've not really performed well. We played well in patches. For example, the Liverpool game, we had a good first half.
Liverpool game, it played well in the first half, didn't sustain it. But we're up against a very, very good side. They can't, we had a lot of injuries. They started really attacking us. You can see, that one, even though a draw is not great considering the circumstances, but the game against Bournemouth, up until the 10 men, we didn't start well. We didn't have loads of attacking chances, and the game on Saturday, and that's what's worrying me. Like, as an attacking threat, we're not performing at the moment. Right,
let me stop you there.
We need to fix that fast.
Because, actually, we're segueing onto it nicely, what I was going to ask you, because you're Mr. Arsenal in a way. You go to all the games, home and away. You've been doing so for a number of years, and you know your stuff. Despite what anyone wants to say, you know your stuff. How do we fix it? What's gone wrong?
Well, what's gone wrong is I just don't think we're... the attacking part of Arsenal is not working at the moment. And yes, the easy thing to say is Martin Odegaard's missing. And yeah, we are missing Odegaard. He leads the press, he leads the tempo of the team, he leads the team. He really is a very important player for Arsenal. But he's been out for quite a long time now. So there's been enough time to come up with other solutions to it, right? And when you're missing a big player, you can affect, City are missing, You know, Rodri, we're seeing already how it's affecting them. Their last few performances have been poor, right? Culminating in their defeat. So it does happen that, you know, you can be missing a big player, but I just don't think we need to adapt better to that. So, number one, we need to attack more. We need to have a bit more attacking flair to us, I feel. At the moment, the last few games, it's been missing. You know what I mean? And we've got to get that back. We've got to get that back. We've got to get that attacking flair back into the Arsenal side.
There's a lot of people out there calling for Ethan Neri to start more games.
Maybe it is a time to make Ethan Neri start games. Do
you feel that's maybe a little bit too much on a young lad?
No, not really. I think he can handle it. I mean, but then even when he came on, he didn't really offer a lot. I mean, he was a bit, you know, he came on late in the game. So it's always difficult. But I'm looking on it and thinking, also Raheem Sterling. Well, you know, if we brought him in, we hardly seem to be using him. I'm not saying that he's lit it up yet, but I think maybe, you know, you've got to consider maybe starting him over Martinelli, even though I don't think, obviously he won't be able to play against Chelsea because he's on loan from Chelsea. So it will be Martinelli starting that. And then just really the players that are there right now need to pick it up now. I just mentioned the name there, Martinelli. I'm not singling out anybody, but he's been pretty poor since, you know, we've come back. From a defensive point of view, Martinelli, we know the effort he puts in is, you know, he always tracks back. I mean, you know, I was watching that United game yesterday and I was seeing how little, say, somebody like Rashford tracks back and stuff like that. You realise the value of a Martinelli in the team from that aspect. It's not just attacking-wise. From a defensive point of view, he's invaluable. But from an attacking point of view, over the last few games, he's been pretty poor. There was the game against Liverpool. It's his sort of giveaway of the ball that leads to them getting a goal. He's pretty sloppy. And then he's pretty non-existent against Newcastle. And he's a bit off form at the moment. You know what I mean? I thought
certainly his finishing has been a bit...
Yeah, I thought he sort of got it back before, you know, the international break. But he's kind of lost it again. Of course, remember he had a little injury. Is he still suffering a bit from that? I don't know, but he got to get on track. Havertz, I want to see Havertz playing more centrally down the middle as a striker. You know what I mean? On the game against Newcastle, I couldn't work out what we were trying to do. Was he playing in midfield? It's this hybrid stuff, you know what I mean? Just get him down.
Yeah, that was a concern of mine
down
as well.
There, get him in the middle.
Through the middle.
We don't seem to be playing with a striker.
Yeah.
Right? And so, you know, there was one time in the first half, lovely ball put into the box, you know, by Saka. Is nobody there? You know, I just want to see a more attacking, fluid Arsenal at the moment. If that means putting Wanyeri in, if that means switching up things a little bit, then let's do it. But at the moment, it's not working. Now, it's not terminal. I know a lot of people are saying that it's all gone, it's finished and that. It's not. We lost to Newcastle last year. We had some tough times against some of these teams last year. But we got to get our act together fast because now, you know, that gap's starting to open up at the top. It's 7 points now. You know, we're very, very lucky that Bournemouth beat Man City because I think if you start to see the two teams, like one's 8 points, one's 7, catch two teams is really tough, you know? And we're very, very lucky that so far this season, nobody's really hit their, you know. Yeah, I mean, Liverpool are the best performing team, but even they've been a little... You know what I mean? Had Brighton have taken their chances in that first half, they may not have won that game. You know what I mean? We've seen with City, that result that they got on the weekend's been coming for them as well. They got the last-minute equaliser against bottom-of-the-table Wolves. They won 1-0 against Southampton. They ain't really been clicking. Haaland's kind of been digging them out of tough situations. So
him and Guardiola, yeah.
But at some stage, one of them two teams are going to start hitting those things and then start motoring away. And if we don't get our act together, we'll be out of the title race.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with anything you said there. And in terms of what you was mentioning about the attacking play, I've noticed as well that the tempo has slowed down. The passing is not quick enough.
Great point.
Yeah.
Do you know
I would also add to that as well. One thing I've noticed about Arsenal, and this has been a criticism of mine from going way back, we don't shoot enough, especially from outside the box.
Yeah. I think I tell you, the funny thing is, I think I saw some stat where we've actually scored second amount of goals from outside the box this season. I think I saw that somewhere. Maybe I'm wrong, but we don't. I heard Gary Neville say this yesterday. I was watching the Chelsea Man United game, and he said, "Why is it that so many teams now do this thing and they put their foot on the ball, wait, and that's what we do a lot." You know what I mean? Zinchenko came on Saturday. I'm like, yeah, are we winning? The way I know you're like trying to look for that opening and thing, but he's got his foot on the ball, he's scanning, and I'm like, bro, step it up. And that is so true. The tempo at Arsenal at the moment is too slow. At home, it's not bad, but away from home, it's slow build up, slow this, slow. Teams are just sitting there in the formation.
I mean, if you're defending against a team that has a slow build up, then you're actually making it easier for that team to defend against you.
Yeah. So I'm just like, where's the tempo? You are right, because that sort of running last year, the second part of the season, but that's what we were doing well. We were like, the tempo
Quick
was boop. You know what I mean? The tempo, I know it's Preston, the other night, but the tempo there in that game was good. Moving the ball, quick thing. But all this thing, stepping on the ball, waiting for
trying to score the perfect goal.
Yeah, we got to up the tempo in these games. You know what I mean? What the goals against Liverpool, quick. Ben White sees it, bang. Saka runs in,
all over the top,
high tempo thing. You know what I mean? All this slow build up. We're doing too much of that right now, and again, we've got to sort that out. Because
we've got some difficult games.
We got lucky. We got lucky with that City result.
Yeah, we did.
We got lucky with that, because if they hadn't lost that and the two of those teams were sitting there, you're starting to look at it and saying it's gone.
And I've got to ask you as well, just before we move away from Arsenal, news come out. Obviously, you've spoken about it earlier on AFTV, but I would like to hear your thoughts for the benefit of those people watching now. The departure of Edu.
Big blow, I think. You know what I mean? It was mooted in the summer, and it's really interesting because it looks like he's going to the Forest. Well, let's call it a Forest Group, but the guy owns Forest.
Yeah, he's been linked with them before, hasn't he?
Yeah, so it was linked in the summer, right? So the guy owns Forest, he owns Olympiacos, a couple other teams. He wants Edu to run all the teams, right? To be the sporting director over all of those teams. So it's a pretty big deal for Edu, I guess. Because you'll be running more teams. You're running that group of teams, and I guess the money's going to be huge, right? But Edu's done a great job at Arsenal. You know what I mean?
Has he done? Because
he has.
No, but let me pull you on that, because some people I've seen, and people I respect, I'm not going to name them, but there's been a few people who said, actually, when you analyse it, has he done a great job? A lot of people were critical of the last transfer window.
I totally disagree. Like, first of all, those people need to go and look back to when he came in 2019. Where were we? We were finishing 8th. We were nowhere near challenging. Nowhere near.
True.
Right? And it's the players that Edu bought. First of all, the players he had to get out. Yeah? We had the situation with Ozil, which was a situation where, he's on huge wages, right? And, still long to run on his contract. We had to get him out. He had to get him out. There was a whole raft of other players he had to get out. He had to deal with the situation with Aubameyang. I remember I met him over in America, and he said to me, he goes, the hardest part is, moving players on, because, you got to go and communicate that to those players. It's a really tough thing to do. We underestimate all that, you know what I mean? So first of all, he had to get rid of those players. Then he had to start bringing players in. Some of the players he bought in, like Martin Odegaard, for instance, for £35 million. When you look at, it's very easy to say, why isn't he done? He would go and spend this and that, like what Chelsea have done, or what Manchester United have done, with this huge money spent on players. Where are they?
City have done,
right? But
I've got to stop you there, though. Some people have said, like, we spent 700 million, we should be making a better fist of it than we're doing.
Chelsea has spent more than us. So have Manchester United. I mean, we're not the only team that spent a lot of money. Spurs have spent a lot of money. But what he's done with the money that he's spent, and remember, we're talking about Edu right now, yeah? Edu can only get the players. He's not the manager of the club, yeah? He's brought in players that have got us challenging for the league. And there's been players that he's brought in that we've criticised. So when we first brought in Aaron Ramsdale, everyone's like, you got Ramsdale for that. He's turned out to be good, right? When he brought in Raya, everyone was slating No one's slating him now. When he's brought in, as I said,
brought in a striker.
Martin Odegaard.
He's
when
not
he brought in
a striker.
Let me just say, Martin Odegaard. When he brought in Martin Odegaard, lots of people, I remember that, well, Odegaard, we should get Buendia, get this, get that. How good has he been, right? That he's one of the best players in the league right now. So, you're never going to get everything right. Let's remember that as well. You don't get every single right.
I must say, you're making a sterling defence of him.
No, I am, because I really do think people are underestimated the job he's done, right? And people might say, oh, he's because you've met him, and it's got nothing to do with that, right? You know what I mean? I've met most of the people at Arsenal. It's got nothing to do with that. You got to give credit where credit's due. Why do you think the guy from the Forest Group and that are after him with this big job? The guy's done a great job. It's going to be a very hard act.
Are you
I'm not saying I'm
suspicious about the timing though of this announcement?
Yeah, the timing is weird.
Odd, doesn't it?
Listen, I think it is a leak that's come out. Is like why this has all come out today. Maybe they might have wanted to have done it in the international break. It is interesting that when this move has first been spoken about in the summer, the owner of Forest and Olympiacos came out and said there's nothing in it. And at the time, I thought to myself, there's something in this, man, because that is a real strange one to just come out of the blue like that. You know what I mean? And of course, you know what I mean, just about a month ago, he was sat next to Arteta when, you know, Arteta was signing his new long-term contract. You know, so the timing isn't great. You know what I mean? It's come off the back of us losing against Newcastle, got a tough game against Inter Milan coming up, and an even tougher one against Chelsea. So the timing's not great, but let's not... this guy's done a great job. I mean, honestly... people need to
I do agree with you for the most part. He's done a very good job. But what would you say to the people? Again, I've seen a lot of comments online today. They're saying the absence of a striker is starting to cost us dear, and this is something that should have been addressed by the club going back last season, let alone this season.
Yeah, well, listen, I would have loved to have seen a striker come in, and we haven't been able to get that striker yet. And it's not easy to get that striker. You know what I mean? I was doing a...
Why do you think we didn't get a striker?
I was doing... You know, Turkish, for instance, like me and him argue a lot on these things, right? And I remember him saying, just go and get Isak. I remember I was doing a video this morning with Matty from the Magpie channel. And I was joking with him and saying, listen, we should get Isak. He said, listen, there's no way Newcastle will sell it, Isak. And if they do, right, he said he's got 3 years left on his contract, so they can hold out. And he said if they did, it would be no less than 200 million. Would they would even consider? Are Arsenal or any team going to go?
Surely Ivan Toney was available.
Let me just say, are any team going to go and pay £200 million for Isak? You know, and to be honest, that's the player. Ivan Toney would have been a good stopgap. But really, if you're going, you want to buy that high level striker. You know, you're looking at a player like an Isak. There was that Gyökeres at Sporting. But Gyökeres himself came out after the summer and said that he was a bit annoyed with Sporting for pricing him out of moves. He's like, the price that they set was so high that the teams that were interested in him were all put off by it. Because it's only been there for 1 season. He's now proving it again this season. Maybe Arsenal should go and have a look at him in, say, a January or something like that. But
did we really make an earnest effort in trying to get these guys? I think that's what some of the criticism being levelled at Edu is that you try hard enough to prize those players away from the
maybe we haven't, but you know, there's a lot of other teams that need a striker and they weren't able to get him either. So, and I'm talking about teams that also have the means to do it. So we could do with a world-class striker, and I said he ain't been perfect. Nobody's perfect in that, but I think on the whole, when you look at the job that he's done, when you consider when he came in, where we were. Who was talking about competing for the league when he came in? We were a million miles off of that.
Talking about competing
we were
for the
only
league.
talking about the top 4.
I want to wrap up our Arsenal discussion by putting it straight to you. The question a lot of people are asking, a lot of people are talking about it. Title hopes. Is Arsenal's title hopes still out there? Or
there's still title hopes because we're still early in the season. There's still 28 games to go. If we were 10 points clear right now, I still wouldn't be talking like we've won the title.
Good point.
Right? But I do think if we don't get our act together soon, it will be gone. I think we have to beat Chelsea on the weekend. I think
it's as stark as that, then, yeah.
Yeah, I think if Liverpool and City win on the weekend and we don't beat Chelsea, then you're starting to look on it and say those hopes are fading, even this early in the season. But I think if we go and beat Chelsea, go into an international break feeling a bit better, because we've got the international break. When we come out of that international break, the games are a bit more favourable. Forest will be a tough game, but it's at home, right? You know what I mean? And you've got United at home. You've got to play Ipswich. You know what I mean? We have had a pretty difficult run of games, but I do feel that it's important that we get something big out of that Chelsea game because...
What do you make of them this season?
And they're actually above us at the moment as well.
What do you make of them this season, Chelsea? Because going into the start of the season, a lot of people were saying that Chelsea are in a state of disrepair almost. People were writing them off.
At the start of the season?
Yeah, but to be fair, they've done better than what a lot of people were
funny
saying.
enough, right, I mean, like in the predictions at the start of the season, I think I had them either 4th or 5th. And I was saying that, listen, at some stage... they're going to be all right because they've got very, very good players. You look throughout that team, man. Caicedo, Neto, Lavia,
Cole Palmer,
Madueke, Reece James. Yeah. They shouldn't be. They should be right up there. It's just that it's been a mess. It's been an absolute mess. I still think they're a bit hit and miss though, Chelsea. You know what I mean? If you look at them, this season they're hit and miss. 1 week. They do all right.
Yeah, because they weren't that good against United, really. It was
I thought United could have nicked that game. I don't know if they would have deserved to win it, but Chelsea didn't offer a lot. I thought against Newcastle, the game when they won at home the other day, they're all right. They weren't amazing. You know what I mean? They've been getting by because they've got some quality players. So, but they're doing much better than they were last season, and they're a bit hit and miss, but it's a London derby, Stamford Bridge. They're going to be up for the game, and we have to go there now. We go there and play like we did against Newcastle. We lose.
Yeah, right? Well, there's no doubt about that, because that performance against Newcastle was, as I said, comfortably the worst I've seen from Arsenal in a time.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you one thing that did strike me about that performance was the lack of intensity, and that's something that I've rarely seen.
The intensity has been really poor, and that game's a huge game, and we didn't win there last year. Funny enough, we had a bad patch before Christmas last year as well. We didn't win there. We didn't win at Newcastle, right? We lost to Fulham, and we lost to West Ham. Surprise.
You know what the catalyst for last season was? Is the Dubai trip.
There ain't no Dubai this year. So, we got to get our act together. We have to get our... But you know how football goes. You can turn it around pretty quickly. And if we start off by getting a big win at Chelsea away, that's a morale booster. That lifts everybody. Everyone's like, all right, maybe we just have been in a bad patch and we're coming out. But if we lose to Chelsea, then you go into an international break on the back of that. It's all doom and gloom. It's a very important game for Arsenal.
It is. You know what? I was thinking, so with the Premier League as it is at the moment, who has impressed you? Who has... What do you make of the Premier League so far this season? We're 10 games in, so a pattern now is starting to emerge of who's looking good, who isn't. And which teams are like taking your attention to say, yeah, man, these guys look good, or maybe not the case. Maybe no one's
you've got to hand it to Liverpool. I thought that they'd have it. I always thought Liverpool were going to be up there, but I thought Liverpool might have it a bit tough because of Klopp, such a big manager he's left, and this new guy Arne Slot's come in and he's done a really good job. You know what I mean? And they're playing well. Although I still don't think they're that fluent machine yet. You know what I mean? I look at Liverpool and I think they can be beaten. You know what I mean?
They can be touched. Yeah. I actually said that to Drifty when we did the pre-match. The preview that we did, myself and Drifty, I said Liverpool can be touched.
I think
we will touch them. And we did in the first half.
Yeah, they did brilliantly in the second half. Like with us, isn't it? We did really well against them in the first half. They came back in the second half. Same with Brighton. Brighton were all over them. And they have lost at home this season to Nottingham Forest. Yeah, deservedly so as well. That weren't a good performance by them. But at the moment, they're the team that's impressing. City are not impressing me at all. But they've got the quality. They've got Haaland. I really do think if he ain't fit, they might be in a spot of bother. If anything happens to him, because they sold Alvarez, they haven't replaced him, right? They didn't get a striker even to replace him. And, I see De Bruyne came back at the weekend, and of course, Rodri's a big miss for them. They look like a team that could suffer a few defeats as well. We've spoken enough about us. We're all over the place at the moment. You don't know what... Started the season relatively all right, but the ridiculous sending offs and stuff like that set us back. And then since the international break, we've been poor, so we've not impressed. Chelsea, I've just explained. Man United are shocking at the moment. I don't see them recovering up to do anything. Villa. I've been all over the place. You know what I mean? You notice there's been nobody this weekend coming out and saying, boy, that's why you should have got Emery. Notice that's all gone quiet because they got absolutely smoked by Spurs. But
I do want to talk about one Midlands team that have punched above their weight. They're in the top 4.
Forest.
Nobody saw that coming. What do you make of that?
They've done really, really well.
And of course,
they've done really, really well. Yeah, they're a very well organised team, and they've been playing to their strengths. Defending well, and Chris Wood's been on fire.
Yes.
But I don't expect
shout
Forest,
out to Nuno as well.
Yeah, not expecting Forest to finish in the top 4, but they've started the season really, really well. So they've impressed. When you consider where they were last season, when you consider the fact that they could have went down. They're impressing at the moment, and they've got some decent players as well. They're not, they've got some.
Do you think the title race this season is not going to be just us and Man City? Well, I don't think it will for sure. But
no,
do you think there's going to be a wide spread of teams that could?
I think it's going to be those 3: Liverpool, Arsenal, City. I still think Arsenal are going to be in it, but how much in it? I remember last season, at this stage, I think Liverpool were like 5 points ahead of us. And going in towards the end of the season, Liverpool were favourites at one stage to win the league. And they can kind of capitulate towards the end. They lost to Everton. They lost at home to Palace, and then they just fell away. So, that's why I said the season's still very early. But, I think it's them 3. I really do. I think it's too early for Chelsea. It's too early for Villa. For sure. Tottenham, again, they're another team that 1 week, I fought against Villa in that second half. They play really well, great attacking football, and they attack well, but their defence is vulnerable. They haven't got the greatest of squads. And again, Tottenham's that team you can see losing games. Brighton have done well, but you can see them losing games. You know what I mean? So,
do you think that's a good thing, though? Some people have said that it's a good thing that points are being dropped.
Yeah, it
points to a more equitable.
That's why I feel that this season, even despite the fact that we've had a bad few games, it's not over yet, because I just feel that it's a bit more wide open this year. There's no standout, no real. As I said, Liverpool at the moment are the standout team just on form, and Forest, like you said, but there's no team that you're looking at and thinking, yeah, they're going to run away with it at the moment. Nobody, not even City. For the first time you're hearing Pep argue, complaining about injuries, and you don't normally hear that, you know what I mean? So there's no team at the moment, that's a standout. But the one thing, you got to make City the favourite still, because they've got that experience.
Yeah.
They've been here before, they've had these tough times before, and they recover well. But will they be able to do that minus Rodri? So it is really open. It is really open, but as an Arsenal fan, from our point of view, have to get our act together quick, or that's 1 point out of a possible 9 since that international break.
What do you make of those people that have been coming after the manager? I've even seen some Arteta outs recently.
Yeah, I think Arteta out's a bit ridiculous, but coming after the manager, you can understand. He's a big club.
Yeah, certainly. He's
Arsenal.
He's not
one out of the last 9.
But do you think the criticism has been too harsh? Because some of these same guys that are saying get him out now were last season proclaiming, and
that's football, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 1 week, the next week, that's football. You know what I mean? If Arne Slot loses, a couple of games after the next break or whatever, you might hear people saying he ain't the one. You know what I mean?
What do you think What would you deem as acceptable for Arteta this season in terms of league positioning, trophies, and all the rest of it? What do you think the Arsenal fans have a right to expect?
I think if we don't win the league, he's got to then probably get a trophy. Otherwise those noises are going to be very, very loud. You know what I mean? Last couple of years, he's probably punched above his weight. As far as the league's concerned.
But he's not won anything in 5 years, though.
But yeah, exactly. So I think we do need a trophy. You do
what
need.
Trophy?
Well, if
it's unlikely that we're going to win the league, and listen, I'm not ruling us out from winning the league, but
I think he needs either a league. If it's not the league, still needs to do. He still needs to make a good shout of it in the league, and then he needs to win one of those other trophies. You know what I mean? I think if you won the League Cup, even though that's not the biggest trophy, but if you won the League Cup and you made a good fist of it in the league, that keeps you your job. You know what I mean? That's like, all right, you won a trophy, but we need better. If you win the FA Cup and you make a good fist of it, that definitely keeps you your job. If you win the Champions League, your job's safe. You know what I mean? Because we've never won that before.
And just very quickly, do you think he's got what it takes to turn things around?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do. He turned it around last year. And right, we missed out by 2 points, but he did turn it around last year. So I have to believe that he can turn it around, but it needs to happen fast because we're slipping now. We're slipping far behind. 7 points, is 7 points early in the season, so that can be clawed back. But we need to go on a run now of, it's been too much. The start of the season has been a lot of just drop points, you know what I mean? First of all, because we were going down to 10 men, so we're dropping points in games. Now we're losing games. When you start to lose games, 2 out of the last 3, it's not good. Last 2 on the road, we were great on the road. Now we've lost our last 2 on the road. Got to turn it around. And the performances, that's the thing as well. It's not like it was a brilliant game at Newcastle and they scored. It was a poor performance where you could make no case for Arsenal getting anything out of that game. And those are when you start to look at it and say, hey, if you don't turn this around quick, you're in trouble.
Right, there you have it. That's the thoughts of Robbie and myself. As Robbie said, it's not been the most auspicious of starts. Some big pressure games coming up. Robbie said it himself. The Chelsea is now a must-win game. If we're going to get anything out of the league this season, we've got to beat Chelsea, and I tend to agree with him about that. Robbie's also given his views on the state of the Premier League. He's also said that, there's no real standout teams at the moment. So the situation is retrievable, but we've got to act fast. But listen, Robbie, thanks very much. As I said, weekly show on LL Sports TV called Keeping in the Family for obvious reasons. Thanks, guys, for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Catch you on the next one. We are out.